catches, you'll see.
Hey, Shriggs, I just hope Arch Manning wasn't the person who threw that ball.
That's very behind the receiver.
Don't be negative. Who cares?
Negative.
That's levitating.
Let's
Look
go.
at this.
All right, we go from college to the minor leagues. I was watching the Biloxi Shuckers this weekend.
Were you?
And here's Mark Coley making the leaping grab. Check this out. Boom.
What's that?
And then catches
Oh.
it. So he tips the ball up, almost a tip drill, and then catches it. Graziano, I respect it.
It's not something you work on. That's not something you practice. That's got to be all instinct.
Oh, that's
Yeah, a little bit of luck.
The concentration. I
Yes.
love it.
Lastly, it's time to talk banana ball. Here's Robert Anthony Cruz of the Savannah Bananas coming up shortly after this. We wanted to show. Oh, here we go.
that again.
Watch Robert Anthony Cruz, also known as Rack. Look at this catch.
Oh! And he sticks the landing.
I know.
How?
Why?
Oh, why? Because he's a showman.
Oh, okay.
Because it's a disgustingly awesome catch, per Fink.
Oh,
That's the
was
catch
tough.
of the year.
That was amazing. Rack! My guy. All right.
Just casual, too. Just throw the shades back
Casual.
on, go back to work.
One more time. Let's see it. I like it.
He keeps his feet. It's unbelievable.
Back to the NFL. Graziano.
Right.
Dan Graziano was on a training camp tour the last several days. He's back. He joins us. Graz, give us some notes.
Yeah, I was at Rams camp. Myles Garrett's making a pretty strong impression there on the offense and the defense. I talked to Byron Young, their young edge rusher. He said he did a bad job his rookie year when Aaron Donald was on the team of picking Aaron Donald's brain and learning from him. He's not going to make that same mistake with Myles Garrett, who has been in demand in terms of guys looking for advice on how to rush the passer and other things about the NFL. They're fired up to have Myles in the building. Raiders fired up to have Kirk Cousins at quarterback because it allows them to take their time with #1 overall pick Fernando Mendoza. Sadly, I was at Raiders camp the day before Cousins started mixing it up with Max Crosby in practice. I would have loved to see that. But Cousins, it looks like, is going to open as the starter, and they want to make sure that Fernando Mendoza is ready when on his own timetable, and that they as a team are ready to make him as successful as possible. In the meantime, Cousins knows the offense. He's been with Clint Kubiak before. He's all set there. And then I was at Vikings on Friday. Kyler Murray, J.J. McCarthy. It sounds like the Vikings are getting close to making a decision in terms of this competition. It also sounds like Murray has been the guy in the lead throughout training camp. Now, McCarthy was better on Friday, and it doesn't sound like anybody was any good last night, so it's possible that they put this off a little bit, but it sounded to me Friday morning, Friday afternoon like they were getting close to telling us something about who's going to be the starter in Minnesota, and if you had to guess at this point, it sounds like Kyler has been the guy who deserves to be the favorite.
Thank you, and welcome back home here to New York. I would say this. There was an outdoor practice for the fans yesterday for the Vikings Sunday night. And, well, the reports are not good. Our Vikings reporter, Kevin Seifert, tweeted last night, quote, Kyler Murray has had a couple of tough practices against the Brian Flores defense. I don't know that J.J. McCarthy has done enough to overtake him, but we can't say that Murray has just run away with it. And from Alec Lewis of The Athletic, he said Kyler threw 2 interceptions when they had 2 different drives of 11 on 11. Right. Mike T, you're hearing that Kyler isn't taking the bull and running with it. And in fact, McCarthy's actually had some better practices. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I'm not totally surprised. Look, I think ultimately it'll still be Kyler Murray's job. That's why you brought him in. 1-year deal, somebody that's been very productive at different points in his career, has a high ceiling to go with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, amongst others. With that said, J.J. McCarthy is 24 years old. He's played in 10 games in the NFL. Like, Carson Beck is older than he is, so we have to be patient with his development. Again, if they were totally happy with J.J. McCarthy, we wouldn't be talking about Kyler Murray. We'd be talking about Carson Wentz being J.J. McCarthy's backup. So I think some context is important. There are going to be practices that Brian Flores is going to make a lot of quarterbacks look bad. Yeah. So ultimately, I still think we're going to talk about Kyler Murray being the quarterback.
J-Mac, if you're a Vikings fan, you want to hear they're both awesome and just Kyler is just playing so lights out. That's not the case. And it hasn't been, just objectively. No one has run away with this thing, and yet they did sign Kyler Murray, which tells you what?
And that's the reason to me, this is Kyler Murray's job, and I think it was always going to be that way. You look at their quarterback room, they struggled last year in that department, and all the quarterbacks are the same except Kyler Murray. So I think if you're Kevin O'Connell, you're looking at this, and maybe there's a chance that if Kyler Murray doesn't perform well, you can always go to J.J. McCarthy coming off the bench, because to Mike T's point, he's only played and started in 10 games in the NFL. There's still a ton of upside. But when you go out and you bring him in, you have to at least see what he has. And I think once you do that, you can evaluate it from there. I'm more curious to see when they make this decision, do they want to see both guys play in a preseason game? What are you looking for? Because you're going against Flores' defense every single day in practice, which is going to be vastly different from the defenses you're going to see throughout the course of the regular season. So what's that last litmus test that you want to see from both guys to help determine which one is going to start the season?
Guys, you were there and you spoke with, obviously, team officials. If Kyler gets the job, what's that make of J.J. McCarthy, who they traded up to draft in the top 10 just 2 years ago?
I believe the Vikings would tell you that in large part is going to be up to J.J. McCarthy. How does he handle not winning the job? Now, they've been very pleased with what they've seen from him in terms of personal growth, personal maturity over the course of this offseason. So there's some reason to hope that he'll be what they need. A backup quarterback has a real role on the team.
Yeah.
He has to be a helper in the meeting room. He has to be able to maybe run the scout team. The good example of how to handle this is Geno Smith backing up Russell Wilson in Seattle and ultimately becoming a good starting quarterback when Russell moved on. The bad example of this is Kenny Pickett getting upset that the Steelers traded for Justin Fields and signed Russell Wilson, and the Steelers just said, fine, we'll trade you, get out of here. So it's going to be up to J.J. McCarthy. One of the reasons they brought Kyler Murray in was to see how J.J. McCarthy would handle a little bit of an adverse situation, handle the competition. They have been happy with how both guys have handled it.
How important is Kevin O'Connell to just manage this entire situation?
Absolutely consequential. And I was with Kevin at the Jets. He has all the innate leadership and intangibles to have those hard conversations that you need to have as a head coach. Going back to Graz's point, last year, 64 different quarterbacks started games. So assuming Kyler Murray gets the job, hey, JJ, at some point, there's a reasonable chance you're going to play. Be ready. Based on what he did at Michigan, I would be surprised if he wasn't anything but a pro.
And it's just so important to remember. They did not go out and give Kyler Murray like a $40 million a year
$3 million, right?
Minimum salary deal, no franchise tag clause. There's no guarantee he's there more than 1 year. So if J.J. McCarthy starts to look like the better option, they could absolutely go to him.
So that's what's more curious for me. Like, you asked the question, if Kyler's the guy, what do you make of J.J. McCarthy? In this situation, if they finish out the training camp and J.J. McCarthy's the guy, if you're Kyler Murray, I'm on a 1 year deal, no franchise tag, no guarantees.
What's my situation?
If I spend this entire year as a backup, exactly.
Right.
Cut me and see if I can go somewhere else, because if I'm just a backup, what does that make of the next year?
Remember, about 12 months ago in week 1 on Monday Night Football, J.J. McCarthy leads his team in Chicago, and on the sidelines, everyone's going nuts. A lot can change in the NFL. Coming up, the magic of Mahomes. Patrick Mahomes said something about his surgically repaired knee that should get everyone's attention. You will hear from him next. Plus, load management talk, yes. It occurs in the WNBA also. The Aces' biggest stars were on the bench.